Well, good morning, everybody. Hey, I hope you are having an awesome morning so far. It's good to be home. Trust me. You get little slivers of remembering what it's like to travel and be on the road for long times. And when I was traveling with the band, one of the things that, outside of your family, when you're gone, for a while, like the question people would always ask is outside of, being with your wife or your kids, what's the one thing that you miss? What's the big thing? And every time, all the time, it was my bed. Being in strange beds and weird beds and pillows that don't work right. It was always a funny thing because that's when you're traveling, it was my bed. I wanted my bed. So good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Brenda, Ruth. Hey, Tim. Good morning, Susie. Good morning, Scott, Michigan Daffodil. Good morning, Della. Jesus is Lord, Alicia, Susie, and Pepper Lee. Yes. So we are in a great situation in terms of where we're reading. And we are going to be in the book of Second Samuel. And I want to really jump in because it's a long read today to get to the end of the chapter. And it's really one kind of finishing thought of this section of David's life and the whole stupid thing that he's going through. And I do mean stupid. It was his own fault. He made his bed. Now he's sleeping in it, right? That whole pesky sin thing. So we're going to start in second chapter of Samuel, and we're going to be in chapter 19, rather, Second Samuel 19. We're going to start in verse 16, and we're going to go all the way to the end of the chapter. So here we go. I'm going to clear my eyes, and we're going to get rolling. All right, now keep in mind, this is David. The rebellion has been put down. Now he's getting ready to return to Jerusalem. And so now, keep in mind, guys, the kingdom was shaken. The tribes are kind of torn apart. There is no unity in Israel anymore. All of these people had picked sides. Some had picked Absalom, some had picked David. And now David won, essentially. And he's returning to Jerusalem, and so now what you have is more chaos. People are going to be clamoring. They're going to be they're freaking out, trying to get back in favor with the king so they don't die, so they don't get killed because of their treachery, or on and on and on. So here we go. Verse 16. And Shimei, remember him? He's the cursing guy, the guy that was yelling at David and throwing stones and throwing dirt. Uh-oh. And Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjamite from Bahurim, hurried to come down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And with him were 1,000 men from Benjamin, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and with his 15 sons and 20 servants rushed down to the Jordan before the king. And they crossed the ford to bring over the king's household and to do his pleasure. And Shimei, son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan, and he said to the king, Let not my lord hold me guilty, or remember how your servant did wrong on the day my lord the king left Jerusalem. Do not let the king take it to heart, for your servant knows that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I have come this day, the first of all the house of Joseph, to come down to meet my lord the king. And Abashi, son of Zeruiah, answered, Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? But David said, What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should this day be as an adversary to me? Shall anyone be put to death in Israel this day? For I do not know, or for do I not know that I am king over Israel? And as the king said to Shimei, You shall not die. And the king gave him his oath. And Mephibosheth, isn't everybody coming out of the woodwork? And Mephibosheth, son of Saul, well, grandson of Saul, came down to meet the king. He had neither taken care of his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until the day he came back in safety. And when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king said to him, Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? He answered, My lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For your servant, Ziba, said to him, I will saddle a donkey for myself, that I may ride on it to go with the king. For your servant is lame. He has slandered your servant to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like an angel of God. Do therefore what seems good to you. For all my father's house were but men doomed to death before my lord the king. But you set your servant among those who eat at your table. What further right have I than to cry to the king? And the king said to him, Why speak any more of your affairs? I have decided. You and Ziba shall divide the land. And Mephibosheth said to the king, Oh, let him take it all, since my lord the king has come home safely. All right. Verse 31. Now Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Rogelim, and he went on with the king to Jordan to escort him over the Jordan. And Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he had provided the king with food while he stayed at Mahanaim, Mahanaim. I'm going to quit trying. For he was a very wealthy man. And the king said to Barzillai, Come over with me, and I will provide for you with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the king, How many years have I still to live, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am this day 80 years old. Can I discern what is pleasant and what is not? Can your servant taste what he eats and what he drinks? Can I still listen to the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little way over the Jordan with the king. Why should the king repay me with such a reward? Please let your own servant return, that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. But here is your servant Chimham. Let him go over with my lord the king, and do for him whatever seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall go over with me. I will do for him whatever seems good to you. And all that you desire for me I will do for you. Then all the people went over the Jordan, and the king went over, and the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own home. And the king went to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him. All the people of Judah, and also half of the people of Israel, brought the king on his way. Then all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, Why have our brothers, the men of Judah, stolen you away and brought the king and his household over the Jordan, and all of David's men with him? All of the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, Because the king is our close relative. Why are you angry over this matter? Have we eaten at all at the king's expense, or has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, We have 10 shares of the king, and in David also we have more than you. Why then did you despise us? Were we not the first to speak the words or bring back the king? But the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. Okay, man, there's been a lot of mouthfuls in there in terms of blah, 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 blah. All right, let's jump in. Okay, first things first. Like I said, you've got a kingdom that's pretty much divided, and David needs to piece it back together. So he's on a mission to redeem those who are redeemable, in that there were some people that betrayed him. There were some people that did some horrible things, and we're going to start out with Shimei. or Shimei, however you want to say it. When he left, if you remember, when he was leaving Jerusalem, this guy who was just north of the city in Bahurim, here, there's a map. Got a map. When he came out, it was basically just right there. If you see Jerusalem, it says En Rogel. Then Bahurim, it's like right north and east of the city. He was the guy that was throwing rocks and cursing him all the way to Jordan. He followed him over there. Had to be probably 5 or 6 miles, and so he followed him and was cursing David. Because why? If you remember, Shimei is from the house of Saul. Dun, dun, dun. He's a relative of Saul, bringing his clan. Now that David won, he's like, oh no, what am I going to do? This isn't good. So he decides, well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to get down there. I'm going to be the first one in, and I'm going to apologize. And maybe the king's in a good mood. Maybe he'll pardon us. That's kind of the goal. If I'm first in and I show good humility, maybe the king will spare me. So he jumps in there, brings his whole clan down to the peace table, hoping that the king would pardon him. And he did. But who also was with him? Ziba. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So, if you remember, Ziba was a servant of Mephibosheth, which we're getting into in the next chapter. Do you remember Mephibosheth? Mephibosheth is the grandson of Saul. So you have Saul, Jonathan, Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth is that guy that was dropped and he was lame. His legs didn't work. And he basically was adopted by David into David's own inner circle. He ate at David's table because he loved Jonathan so much that he said, I'm going to do the kindness that Jonathan has done to me. You're going to come and live with me. Gave him all the lands of Saul, gave him everything. He restored him basically everything. Well, now Ziba is the servant of Mephibosheth. Now, if you remember, what happened when David was leaving town? When David was, Absalom's coming, he's going to kill everybody. We got to get out of here, get out of Jerusalem. And so they're starting to get out. Well, Ziba shows up with a donkey and some food and some wine, and he makes up this story. Maybe he makes it up or not. That's what we're going to have to talk about. I'm not sure who's lying here. I have no idea if Mephibosheth is lying or if Ziba's lying. One of them is lying, and maybe both of them are lying. But, so what you have here is David's leaving Jerusalem. Ziba shows up with a donkey and a bunch of food, and it's kind of like he's trying to buy favor with David and his crew. Maybe it's just hedging your bets. Maybe he's just kind of going, well, if David wins, I guess this will help keep us on top. If he loses, I can blame it on Mephibosheth. See, I'm not sure who's lying here, but somebody's lying. Then you continue on, verse 24 through 30, and you see the interaction with David and Mephibosheth, right? And Mephibosheth he's saying, look, hey, I haven't cut my fingernails. I'm dirty. I haven't dealt with my feet. And Mephibosheth tells the story that Ziba's lying. He took his donkey. He ran out of there. Mephibosheth is saying, David, I've always been faithful to you, bro. Hey, I'm your guy. Eating at the table, that's me. Why would I betray you? And you can't really tell. You can't tell if Ziba was lying or if Mephibosheth was lying. But David pardons them both. There you go. David pardons them both. And then, because he does not, I believe he does not know who's lying either. I believe he doesn't know who's lying either, because what does he do here at the end? And the king said to him, verse 29, why speak any more of your affairs? I have decided, you and Ziba shall divide the land. I think that's his way of going, one of you guys is lying, and I can't figure it out. So you both better be faithful to me, or else you're going to deal with it in the future. But today you are pardoned. Today you are pardoned. So there is one thing though that I had a note here. Verse 24, Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, he's crippled, is shown mercy. But is he being truthful, or is Ziba being truthful? You see, I think that Mephibosheth may have been in fear of his life. Either way, I mean, you think about this, guys. Let's just say that you're a relative of somebody who's way high up in power, like way high up in power, and you just happen to be there. And then another regime comes in and routs out your family, starts killing people to put themselves in positions of power. And you're sitting there going, I had nothing to do with any of it. I just am related. What do? Do you follow your relative that was in the position of power and say, I'm going to pick a side, I'm going that way? Or do you say, I had nothing to do with this, I'll be faithful to you, the new leader, to keep your life, to keep your property, to keep your family alive? Would you lie and say, I'm with you? Or would you be truthful and say, we got to go, it's time to lose everything? What would you think? What would you think? So it's hard thing to pick sides, even in reading this, when you're in retrospect. Even in retrospect, it's kind of like, uh, who should I be mad at? Who should I blame? Which one's the bad guy? I don't know. What would you do? Would you lose everything to follow a relative that did something and they're in a position of power and you didn't have anything to do with it? I don't know. All right. Now, verse 31 through 39, we're going to talk about Barzillai. He was one of those people that aided David on the way out. Jerusalem was now in the past. David was out. And this guy, Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Regalim, and he basically aided David and his people. Gave him food, gave him shelter, gave him protection, yada, yada, yippee skippy. And now David is trying to basically say thank you. He wants to bless him for taking care of him when they were in exile. Now, this is an interesting exchange, because Barzillai pretty much is like, nah, dude, we're good. It's good. Don't worry about it. I'm blessed. You're blessed. We're all blessed. And David keeps pressing the issue. He wants to have this unity. And I think politically that David needs to be viewed as the guy. The kingdom is still in tatters. Don't forget, all the tribes are not unified at this point. It's not like David, is back as king, Absalom's dead, everybody's happy. No, the kingdom is completely shattered right now. David has to glue it together. And so the more people David can get on his side and lock it together, the more unified it will appear. And not just appear, but be in reality. But also, it's going to, all the people on the outside, all the tribes and all the people on the outside looking in, the stronger David appears, the first thing is that there's less of a chance of another attack. If David appears very strong, then there's probably fewer people that are going to go, you know what, now's a good time to strike. Now's a great time to get in there and just strike. Number one. Number two, the stronger David appears is reason for more people to jump on board. You know, okay, fine, I'll jump in, I'll go. If it's like 3/4 of the tribes and clans, it's a heck of a lot more appealing for you to jump in and go, all right, I'll sign on. I'll be in unity with David and his people, because there's strength in numbers. There's all kinds of reasons, but that strength, he has to get as many people on his side as he can. And Barzillai had a clan. He was a rich dude, and so you get this rich guy on your side. It just helps everything. It helps everything. And Barzillai kind of just keeps pushing back, like, I don't want to go with you. I don't want to go with you. Well, he finally talks him into taking Chimham with him. But here's your servant Chimham. Do for him whatever seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall go over with me, and I will do for him whatever seems good to you. Now, it does not say if Chimham is a relative of Barzillai. I would think that if Chimham were a relative of Barzillai, that it would say so. That's just guessing, but it doesn't say so. So you're going to have to figure that one out on your own. Now, do you think that Barzillai might be hedging his bets against another uprising? I want to show you something here. This is Brad just kind of going off the page a little bit. So bear with me, and you look and see if you think that this is a possibility, because it doesn't say, but it's a possibility in my mind. Okay, look where Gilead is, right? Gilead's right there on the other side of the Jordan, and then you've got Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin's right there on the west side. These peoples lived only miles from each other, not like hundreds of miles, not like 50 miles, like 3, 4, 5 miles, 10 miles would be a long way. And we're going to see in the next chapter, there's an uprising. There's a rebellion. And the guy that starts the rebellion was a Benjamite. Now, this is Brad scratching his head, but if you know where Barzillai lived, he was a Gileadite. Gilead. Okay? He was right there. You got to wonder if he knew something about the distrust of David, or the people that might possibly start this new uprising. But he lived right there. So piece this thing together. He's a rich guy. Rich guys have a tendency of knowing stuff that's going on around them, because they have servants, they have people. Their money is going out into the community, and therefore people want to be around him because he has money. Therefore, he has information. Now, it doesn't say if he knew anything about the coming rebellion, but he might have known, man, gosh, those Benjamites, they're not happy. They're not happy at all. So maybe he was hedging his bets. Now, this is a maybe. Maybe he was going, you know what? I need to look like I'm in lockstep with the king, because the king is now the king again. And I supported him in the desert, and I want to make sure that everybody knows I and the king are good. However, I'm not going to give complete buy-in. I'm not going to jump in 100%. I'm going to jump in like 60%. That way, if somebody else challenges the throne, maybe I'll have an out. Now, I'm just reading into that because of the tone of everything that's going on with the country being in disarray, and everybody, it looks like everybody's kind of just not in harmony with David yet. And when that's happening, that's an easy time to take over. That's an easy time for chaos to happen. So Barzillai says, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to send you my boy Chimham. Chimham, go with him. And David says, okay, I'll take Chimham. Now, last little bit here from 41 to the end of this chapter. What you have is you've got Israel and Judah separate. The men of Israel and the men of Judah are basically kind of fighting with words over who has more shares of David. Who's the one that has more buy-in with David? And Israel is ticked off that Judah seems to have been accepted first. And if you remember, well, first of all, Judah, they were the most respected tribe. They were the most strong. They were the most devout. They were the most respected, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. And so when Judah jumps on board, David is thrilled because they are the most respected, the most feared, the most go on and on and on. And he's got them as an ally and possibly the key to locking Israel back together, because if Judah jumps in, well, then we got to jump in. But the men of Israel start squabbling. They're like, hey, we want goodies. When kingdoms change hands, kings give out land, they give out title, they give out this, they give out that in order to lock everybody together, and we didn't get nothing. We didn't get nothing. Oh, well, how about you, Judah? And Judah's going, we didn't get anything. We didn't get anything at all. What the heck is your problem? And so they're squabbling, but in the end, there's an alliance, there's an allegiance. It's not locked together yet, but there's a peaceful, there's tension, but there's not chaos anymore. And so, but the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. And so there's a loose peace right now. And that's where we are left at the end of chapter 19. So, rebellion is just around the corner, guys. Chapter 20, it's going to happen starting tomorrow. And the thing is this, that people, you know, when you read these words, it's so easy not to think of these as real people that really existed, that they're not just words on a page, that Mephibosheth was probably just trying to stay alive and keep his people alive, his servants and his stuff. Maybe he was just trying to stay alive. Maybe he lied. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he thought, there's no way out of this. I've got to say this to Ziba, and I got to say this to David. Real life choices that are tough. And when we read these words, it's so easy to think, well, that's a great story, isn't it? It's a good story. There's a lot of moral lessons in there, moral lessons. And we kind of just discount that these were real people. This really happened. And I think when we actually allow that to come in and understand that their problems are the same as my problems are no different than their problems. And we need to pray and we need to turn to Christ and deal with these things, these life things. I mean, we're blessed by seeing this. We're blessed hugely by being able to open up a Bible and read about these people and see how they dealt with it. Who did right, who did wrong, why did they do this, why didn't they do that? And we of course can be armchair quarterbacks. We can see perfectly in retrospect, well, if it was me, I would have blah, blah, blah. David should have blah, blah, blah. Well, it's easy to see now, but they were living it in real time. They were living it in real time. So, all right, we're going to switch on into a time of prayer, guys. Let's see. Looking at comments. Yeah. Scott, playing both sides of the fence. So he has an in whichever way it went. That's what big companies do now with Republican and Democrat donations. They donate to both. Yeah. Okay, Susie's bringing up prayer requests. Here we go. Prayers for RA, flare up to stop, and for guys to get my roof and electrical work done. Amen. Life of Nina, death in the family. Andrea Mills and family, and Mrs. B. Yep. Son's traveling to Mexico on the border for his engineering job. through the 6th. Pray for safe travel, safe work. Yep. Oh, and nut allergies. Yeah. Pray for Alicia's toe. Yep. Unspoken. Absolutely. Yep. Broken toe. No. Yeah. Prayers for skate ministry. Yeah. President and leaders and wisdom and safety for leaders. President and leaders for wisdom and safety. Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, let's jump on in. Father God, we just thank you so very much for today. It's a beautiful day outside here, and help us to make the most of it. Help us not to just sit on a computer all day. And, oh, Lord, help us to actually be a part of your world. Help us to get out and be a positive force for you in the world. Help us to meet people, have conversations, have interactions with folks, relatives and friends and people we don't know. Help us to be your hands and feet. Today, help us to smile to somebody who looks like they're having a bad day. Say hello. Help us to be your hands and feet and not just think, oh, that's a really good thing, but to actually do it. Help us, Lord, to put you first and put our own desires far, far away. Lord, with our medical issues and all of the prayer requests that we bring to you, we know that you're concerned. You've told us to bring them to you, and so we do. And so I ask, please send your Holy Spirit, be change in each and every one of these folks' lives. Bring healing, bring peace and safety for our leaders. Help them to be wise enough to choose your path and your decisions and do what is best for your people. For all these things and all the things that are unspoken, Lord, hear our prayers. It's in Jesus' holy and precious name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. Have an awesome and blessed day.